Hello, I'm Kent Myers.
I'm Mick Cornett, and it's time for the verdict.
As a part of its traditional and continuing commitment to public and community service, Crowe and Dunleavy Law Firm presents The Verdict, an objective discussion of contemporary legal issues hosted by Kent Myers. And also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma. And welcome to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett. Well, as our regular viewers are aware, this is a show where we discuss legal topics with what we think is a down-to-earth approach. Let me introduce my co-host and one of Oklahoma's top legal experts, Kent Myers. Kent, why don't you explain our today's show?
Well, today we've got two new gunfighters in town, two new prosecutors in town. Let's hope they aren't gunfighters. In Oklahoma and most of the western part of Oklahoma, we have two chief prosecutors, the District Attorney of Oklahoma County, Wes Lane, and the United States Attorney for the Western District of Oklahoma, Robert McCampbell. They're new in the office, both within about the last 60 days. They've taken over their offices, but they are not inexperienced. They both have a broad background in criminal and civil prosecution. I like to think of these two offices as being the people's law firms. And the people's law firms now have two new senior partners, and that's who we'll meet today. And it'll be interesting because they assume these positions after having heard a lot of criticism of both offices, from the District Attorney's Office, the Joyce Gilchrist matters that are always in the press, and from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI handling of the documents in the Tim McVeigh, Terry Nichols cases. So we'll be interested in hear what these fellows have to say and what their plans are to try to do better.
They're the new kids in town. We'll welcome Wes Lane and Robert McCampbell to the program when we return, and I expect another lively discussion right here on The Verdict.
I enrich our cultural landscape.
I help define our quality of life.
I am one of 4,000 artists in central Oklahoma who receive
support from Allied Arts, this community's united arts organization.
I am an Allied artist.
All children deserve a life of hope and love. But sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all of the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. Oklahoma Lawyers for Children has over 350 of the best attorneys and volunteers in Oklahoma County who donate their time and services to represent children. For more information, call 405-23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
And welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. And Kent, why don't you introduce our guests?
We have two great guests. One is a return guest, one is new. On my left is the new United States District Attorney for the Western District of Oklahoma and my former partner, Robert McCampbell. Robert is a 17-year lawyer, having had 7 years of prior experience with the U.S. Attorney's Office and being Chief of Drug Enforcement Prosecution for a number of years there. He also has been in private practice for 10 years. He has a stellar academic record, a Vanderbilt graduate, Phi Beta Kappa, and Yale Law School, and a very accomplished trial lawyer, and 43 years of age.
And a good guy.
And a good guy. Robert, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me today.
On my right is a return guest. Wes Lane, who has been kind enough to be with us on one other occasion, has come back. Wes is a 46-year-old lawyer, the district attorney of Oklahoma County, and 20 years as a lawyer, 17 years as a prosecutor. Wes graduated from OU, both undergraduate and law, and has had experience in private practice as well and in private business. So Wes, thanks for coming back.
Thanks very much, but Mick didn't say I was a nice guy.
And a nice guy.
And a nice guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we got that covered.
Thank you.
We knew that from your prior experience.
Okay, I was getting that complex.
All right, don't worry about it. Robert, let me start off with you. You have assumed the head of a 38-lawyer law firm, one of the bigger law firms in Oklahoma City, and they're all Justice Department lawyers. Tell our viewers how one becomes, just generally speaking, the process to become the United States Attorney.
Generally speaking, the United States attorneys are presidential appointees. So I've been appointed by President Bush. U.S. attorneys have to be confirmed by the United States Senate. So currently I'm awaiting confirmation, first to be considered by the Senate Judiciary Committee. Right now, I've been appointed by Attorney General John Ashcroft and am serving as U.S. Attorney in an interim capacity, awaiting Senate confirmation.
Now, once the Senate confirmation comes through, what generally, if you can say, is the term of your office?
It's a 4-year term, and then I also serve at the pleasure of the President. So at the end of the 4 years, it would be up to the President on whether to renominate me or not.
Now, there are a lot of political appointments around, but this, I want our viewers to understand you've had substantial 17 years experience as a lawyer and many years prosecuting cases in this office.
Well, absolutely. I got to serve as an assistant U.S. attorney for 7 years and prosecuted drug crimes and also served as white-collar prosecutor during that time. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to now go back as U.S. attorney.
Now, you have 38 lawyers. What is the rest of your staff like? How many other employees approximately do you have up there in your office?
Approximately 91 employees total, all of it devoted towards representing the people of the Western District of Oklahoma. So as you pointed out, we're a law firm and representing the people of the Western District of Oklahoma.
Now, in very general terms, Robert, please just describe what is the Western District. What area does it encompass?
It's approximately the western half of the state. It's 40 counties, and mostly if you go I-35 west, that's our district. All of Oklahoma County is included in the district.
Okay. Well, Wes, let me turn to you. You're the head of a 54-lawyer law firm now. How many employees do you have in your office? Just approximately.
Got about 150.
That's a lot to say grace over.
And I tell you what, I have to say grace over them every day. There's just a lot of folks, a lot of personnel issues, and it's very challenging.
Now, remind our viewers how you became district attorney.
Well, the district attorney, of course, is an elective office, but if a sitting prosecutor leaves during the term, then it's a gubernatorial appointment. So in my particular case, Governor Keating established a 6-person committee who reviewed all the different applicants, and they made recommendations to the governor, and the governor then chose.
Now, how long will you serve finishing out former District Attorney Macy's term?
I would be up for elective office in November 2002.
Okay. Now, that's a partisan election, is it not?
Actually, it's a nonpartisan. No, forgive me. It is partisan, absolutely. I was thinking of the judicial, which is nonpartisan.
Right. Let me change the subject just a minute. You hear the phrase, gentlemen, prosecutorial discretion. I understand generally that means that the prosecutors can do on a particular case just about what they want to. Robert, what kind of prosecutorial discretion does a U.S. attorney have?
Prosecutorial discretion is one of the main points of my job. Every case that comes in, either I or one of my assistants is going to look at it very carefully to make sure it meets our prosecutive guidelines. If that person is innocent or we have insufficient evidence, we need to decline that case rather than take it into court. One of the interesting things we have to look at is a federal interest. Federal courts are not courts of general jurisdiction. We have limited jurisdiction, so we need to look at is there federal jurisdiction and is there a sufficient federal interest for us to spend resources on it?
In other words, did they violate a federal law?
Did they violate a federal law? And the importance of looking at that has to do with resources. I've got 28 prosecutors to cover 40 counties, and we need to be very careful about how we spend those prosecutive resources to get the most use we can.
If you turn down a prosecution because you just think it isn't something you ought to do, is there any overview of that? Is there any second guessing of that? Is there any appeal on that?
No, that's our job as prosecutors, and that's part of the oath we take, to do it and do it well and do it according to the law.
Okay. Wes, let me ask you the same question. What kind of prosecutorial discretion does the Oklahoma County District Attorney have?
Well, Robert said it very well. I mean, it's the same scenario, the same kind of issues. I know in Robert's case that, of course, he's dealing with the Justice Department as well, whereas the buck really pretty much stops at the county level in our office. So since I'm chosen directly by the people, then the people really are my ultimate reviewer, I suppose.
Yeah.
I have a question. I think a lot of people draw their perceptions of a prosecutor from television. I didn't go to law school, but I watched a lot of Perry Mason. Hamilton Berger lost his case every week. And I think a lot of times when they talk about prosecutors in the media, they talk about how many prosecutions they got, as if a person was found innocent, then the prosecutor did a bad job. Should we judge our prosecutors by their winning percentage, Wes?
No, I tell you what, quite frankly, that's almost kind of a complex question in that really we should be weeding, if we're losing a lot of cases, then there's one issue we need to be examining, and that is whether we're screening our cases very well, because the goal of justice is not to win convictions. The goal of justice is also to protect the innocent.
Robert, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. You want to be careful to screen your cases, but in any individual case, our client is justice, and if we lose, we lose. It's not about just racking up convictions.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more of The Verdict.
Yeah, campfire's a lot of fun. You get to make some friends. You get to do some cool stuff. Campfire's for boys too, not just girls. But hey, campfire's definitely for kids. So call the campfire office nearest you to join in on the fun. 'Cause let's face it, you're not getting any younger.
St. Gregory's University has been changing the lives of people like me for 125 years. Affordable, private Catholic education, balanced with dedication to community and service, makes St. Gregory special. We're extremely proud of our students' outstanding academic achievements and our nationally ranked athletic teams. It's when you help a student build a future of balance, integrity, and service that you change a life forever. St. Gregory's, a community for life.
Yesterday was plain awful.
You can say that
On Broadway is Oklahoma's premier youth musical theater company.
Bringing our daughter here was one of the smartest things we've ever done.
I've learned a lot. I've gained a lot of confidence. They helped me develop talents I never knew I had.
And it's fun.
On Broadway, Oklahoma's premier youth musical theater company. Now enrolling in Edmond. Call 330-CAST. That's 330-2278.
Every day, in state governments throughout the country, crucial decisions are being made that affect the lives of children and their families. But as this process takes place, children are often left voiceless. When these children raise their hands to be heard, is anyone listening? There are people listening. They are child advocates. Join us and raise your hand for kids.
We are visiting with the new U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Oklahoma, Robert McCampbell, and the new Oklahoma County DA, Wes Lane. Kent, where are we here now?
Well, one of the things I think our viewers would be interested in hearing from these gentlemen is how are they going to address the problems that have plagued their offices before they took over? Nothing that they caused or were involved in, but are going to inherit to some extent. Wes, let me start with you and discuss what I will just choose to call evidence problems. Joyce Gilchrist's name is in the newspaper all the time, and cases are being re-examined that she has rendered expert testimony in. What are you going to do to try to avoid this continuing controversy about crime lab problems and evidence problems?
Well, I tell you, Kent, the public perception of justice is frankly at the top of my personal agenda to address. I am very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about the importance of the people of this community to believe that the justice system here is a sure and just and fair place. Some of the things that I've been personally dealing with is I've been meeting with defense attorneys discussing this. I mean, they've got some concerns, some of which are, I think, very legitimate. And so we are actually working out agreements right now on how we're going to approach DNA testing. In fact, even now, or I guess recently, I wrote a letter for one of the defense lawyers agreeing that we require and need some independent testing on some issues. Specifically on the Joyce Gilchrist matters, I mean, there are some things that can be gone back and DNA tested, and so when we proceed with the case that there might be some question in, before we re-proceed with it, we're going to make sure that we're very comfortable that there is good scientific evidence backing up whatever science that may be outdated now, such as hair examination and stuff like that 20 years ago really was quite relied upon. Mm-hmm. So we're taking some significant steps to do things to assure the public.
Robert, let me ask you a similar question. Much has been said about the FBI handling of documents, turning them over to defense counsel in the Terry Nichols case and in the Tim McVeigh case. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court's still reviewing Terry Nichols, at least in part, from that aspect. What are you going to do to try to see, to the extent you can, to see that that doesn't continue?
We need to critically re-examine from A to Z what we're doing in law enforcement, and we need to have internal checks, both at the investigative agencies and then another level of checks at the prosecutor's office. And the point is, we can't put our head in the sand and say mistakes never happen. What we need to do is look, find where mistakes have happened, and get them corrected. The bottom line, as I mentioned to Mick earlier, the point is not to just rack up a bunch of convictions. The point is to pursue justice and to pursue it in a manner which is fair and open and above board, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Now, Robert, you had mentioned to me a little earlier that you had some ideas about things your office could do to perhaps avoid prosecutions, to perhaps avoid crimes being committed. Kind of preventive law, if you will. Could you comment on that a little bit?
There are some exciting things we're doing besides just prosecuting one case at a time as they come along. We've got a thing called the Youth Crime Gun Interdiction Initiative, where we're targeting certain gun criminals in the critical 18 to 24-year-old age group, which is the most violent age group, sociologists tell us, to try to remove those people and prevent them from getting access to guns to prevent crimes. We've got a very interesting program of advertisements. We've put advertisements on park benches.
Can we pull that up? There we are.
We've put advertisements on buses, and they say felon plus gun equals prison. The point of that is, under federal law, to be a felon and in possession of a firearm is mandatory prison time. No probation, no parole, and we want felons to know that because we want them to be convinced to just stay away from firearms because the price they're going to have to pay in federal court is simply too high.
Wes, let's assume a person commits a crime or allegedly commits a crime in Oklahoma County, but it's a violation of federal law and state law. How does your office coordinate with Robert's office on who prosecutes the case if it gets prosecuted? And moreover, how do you just coordinate generally?
You know, we really have got a great working relationships. In fact, Robert and I just had lunch a couple of weeks ago talking about just that issue. How can we work together in a better way, whether from law enforcement or community relations, a number of different issues. Typically, what I've observed over the time that I've been a prosecutor, and I'm sure Robert's seen the same thing, is that we just have good communication between the law enforcement groups, us, and what we'll typically do is we'll see, well, who's got the best law that fits the kind of crime, who can deal with it in the most effective manner, what kind of defendant are we dealing with, what level of criminality are we addressing. And I tell you, I've got no complaint at all over the years that I've been prosecuting. We've got a tremendous working relationship with the United States Attorney's Office.
We got about 2 minutes left. Can't just go ahead and...
Robert, why don't you comment on that coordination just for a minute, and then we'll switch to another subject.
I couldn't agree more with Wes. Our two offices have worked very well together in the past. We are both interested in the same goal, which is the pursuit of justice, and we have worked very well.
Mick, we've got a lot of viewers out here seeing these two gentlemen. May have seen Wes a little bit more, but perhaps seeing them for the first time. And I'd like for each of them to have a chance to speak to our viewers about what they think is in store for Oklahoma County and what they're going to try to do. So, Wes, would you like to start out for about 45 seconds or so?
Sure. Well, I think the best thing that I can do for our viewers is just to let them know that this is a tremendous time. We've got a very fine office of very fine lawyers, and I think that they can take great assurance that we're a place that is all about, as Robert said, the pursuit of justice. It's not convictions at any cost, like has been a popular thing to be thrown out in a letter to the editor, but rather it is reviewing matters to determine what is just, because justice is not just convictions, it's also the protection of the innocent. And we're going to take steps to make sure that that the public can be very confident in that our lawyers are well trained and understand issues of ethics, right and wrong, and we're going to advocate on behalf of the victims of this community.
Robert?
I really appreciate the opportunity to serve as U.S. Attorney in the Western District of Oklahoma. It's really a privilege and an honor for me. During my time in office, I'm going to have 4 priorities: prosecuting gun crimes, prosecuting drug crimes, securing the rights of all Americans, and prosecuting white-collar crimes. We will do that, as we've discussed today, with the goal of pursuing justice. And I'm privileged and honored to get to be a part of it.
We're going to wrap it up there. Robert McCampbell, Wes Lane, thank both of you for coming on. Kent and I'll be back with a few final thoughts when we return. You're watching The Verdict with Mick Cornett and Kent Lyons.
Hello, my name is Ted Smith. I'm president of the board of directors of the Oklahoma Disability Law Center. ODLC provides free legal services in civil matters to people with physical and mental disabilities.
I'm Mike Sykes, vice president of ODLC. For more information, call 1-800-880-7755.
The Oklahoma Disability Law Center provides high-quality legal services to people with physical and mental disabilities.
In Oklahoma, there are more than 1,600 children waiting to be adopted. They're of all ages, and for many, home has been a source of pain and conflict. They've dreamed of finding a better life and a loving family. Consider adoption. For more information, call 1-877-OK-SWIFT or visit the website www.okdhs.org. Adopt. It may be the toughest job you'll ever love.
Boy Scouts of America, where above all else, character counts.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities. Parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
We are wrapping up another edition of The Verdict. Today we visited with the new U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Oklahoma, Robert McCampbell, and the new Oklahoma County DA, Wes Lane. And two admirable people.
Yes, two new faces that will become very familiar to the public pretty quickly because they'll see a lot of them and hear a lot about them. Some things that strike me about these two gentlemen is their energy level. These two jobs are very trying, very taxing. They take a lot of time, they take a lot of effort, and these gentlemen obviously have the energy to do that. The other thing that strikes me about these two leaders is that they have capability. They're very bright, their intellectual capacity is strong, and they have very good managerial skills. I think they'll work well with each other. I think they'll work well within the office, and this may sound a little unusual, but I think they'll work well and certainly command the respect of the defense attorneys against whom they'll be competing. They also, however, face some pretty big challenges. We can't ignore the impact on the justice system of the Joyce Gilchrist matters, the FBI document matters, and there is only so much they can do with limited resources and options to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But they start fresh, they're fresh faces, they're ready to go, but they start with some baggage that they have inherited from good administrations in the past, but nevertheless baggage they're going to have to try to do something about. But I think the viewers can feel good about the state of criminal prosecution and the administration of justice in our part of the state because it is clear that it is in very capable hands from these two gentlemen. Mick, I want to change the subject just a little bit and raise a different subject. I'd like our viewers to tell us on our Verdict website what subjects they'd like to see us cover. We're not running out of ideas, we're not running out of energy, but we want to hear what they have to say about subjects they'd like to have. You raised a question while we were off camera about doing a show about cameras in the courtroom. I think that would be terrific, and we can put one together like that. So why don't we shoot for something like that soon?
TheVerdict.tv is the website. We'll see you next week. This program was brought to you by Crow and Dunlevy, a professional corporation, and also brought to you by a friend of Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and Delta Dental Plan of Oklahoma.